Most people think fear is chaotic, unpredictable, irrational. They think fear explodes out of nowhere during crashes, wars, pandemics, then disappears just as quickly. But fear isn't random. It's measurable, trackable, and most importantly, profitable. Because right now, there is a global industry worth hundreds of billions of dollars whose entire purpose is to predict exactly when, where, and how much fear you will feel next. And it doesn't just react to fear. It prices it. It sells it. And in many cases, it quietly creates it. Every time a breaking news banner flashes red. Every time a market suddenly drops. Every time social media fills with warnings that something bad is coming. Those moments aren't just emotional events. They are signals. Signals that feed into systems far larger than any one person watching a screen. When fear spikes, heart rates rise. Search behavior changes. Buying patterns shift. People don't think the same way when they are afraid. They hesitate. They rush. They overreact. And the world's most powerful institutions have spent decades learning how to model that behavior with terrifying precision. Let's start with the simplest version of this system. Insurance. Insurance is often sold as protection. But behind the scenes, it's really a massive fear prediction engine. Insurance companies don't guess. They calculate. They study floods that haven't happened yet. Crimes that haven't occurred. Diseases that haven't appeared. Every neighborhood, every house, every person is assigned a probability. A quiet score that answers one question. How likely is something bad to happen here? The higher the fear, the higher the price. Two identical houses. Same size. Same design. One sits in a low-risk zone. The other doesn't. One owner pays comfortably. The other pays endlessly. Not because something happened, but because a model says something might. Fear isn't emotional here. It's mathematical. Now scale that logic up. From houses, to cities, to entire countries. In financial markets, fear has a name. Volatility. And volatility has an index. The VIX. Often called the fear index. When the VIX rises, it signals uncertainty, risk, instability. But traders don't see fear as danger. They see it as opportunity. Because fear makes markets move faster. And speed means money. During calm periods, markets crawl. But when fear hits, prices swing. Assets crash. Panic spreads. And the people who understand fear the best position themselves before it peaks. They don't wait for fear. They anticipate it. This is why markets often crash before the news gets bad. The models already saw it coming. But markets are only one piece of the system. Fear doesn't just move money. It moves attention. And attention is one of the most valuable resources on Earth. Look at modern media. Notice the patterns. Words like collapse, crisis, emergency, warning. They don't appear by accident. They are tested, measured, optimized. Media companies know exactly which headlines increase engagement, which thumbnails trigger anxiety, which phrases keep people watching just a little longer. Fear doesn't repel attention. It locks it in. The more afraid people feel, the longer they stay. The longer they stay, the more ads they see. The more ads they see, the more money flows. Which quietly teaches the system a dangerous lesson. Fear works. This creates a feedback loop. Fearful headlines increase engagement. Engagement increases revenue. Revenue rewards fear-based content. So the system produces more of it, even if the actual risk hasn't changed. But media doesn't just react to fear. It helps train it. Now introduce advertising. Advertising doesn't target people. It targets emotional states. Anxiety, insecurity, uncertainty. When fear rises, ads change. Suddenly you see survival products, security systems, financial protection, courses promising certainty in uncertain times. Advertisers know something most people don't realize. Fear makes people buy faster. When people feel safe, they compare options. When they feel threatened, they act. All of this is guided by data. Search queries, scrolling speed, time spent hovering over headlines. Every micro-behavior feeds prediction models. And these models are no longer human. They are artificial. AI systems now ingest millions of signals in real time. News events, social media sentiment, economic indicators. They don't ask whether fear is justified. They only ask, how likely is fear to increase next? And how intense will it be? These systems don't just predict fear. They forecast human behavior under fear. Who will sell first? Who will panic buy? Who will stop spending? Who will vote differently? Governments use these models too. Not publicly, but constantly. Inside secure rooms, simulations run endlessly. Civil unrest probability, supply chain breakdowns, election volatility. Entire futures are tested based on fear responses. What happens if food prices rise? What happens if fuel spikes? What happens if trust collapses? These simulations don't just inform decisions. They shape them. Because preventing fear is expensive, but pricing it is efficient. And this is where the system becomes dangerous. Because fear prediction can quietly turn into fear dependence. When entire industries rely on fear behaving a certain way, stability becomes less profitable. Calm becomes boring. Predictable anxiety becomes valuable. At the center of all this is a simple structure. At the bottom, human uncertainty. In the middle, prediction models. At the top, billions in revenue. The system doesn't need you to panic. It just needs you to feel slightly uneasy. Consistently. And not everyone pays the same price. Fear is most expensive for those with the least margin. Low savings, high debt, unstable income. When fear rises, their costs rise faster. Insurance premiums, interest rates, everyday prices. The system doesn't punish fear equally. It amplifies existing vulnerability. There's one more layer most people never see. The self-fulfilling loop. Predictions change behavior. Behavior changes markets. Markets validate predictions, which strengthens the models, which increases confidence in the system. Fear predicts fear, and the system calls that accuracy. So where does this leave you? It doesn't mean fear is fake. Real risks exist. Crashes happen. Wars happen. Pandemics happen. But not all fear is organic. Some of it is engineered. Some of it is amplified. And some of it exists because the system needs it to. The most unsettling part. The system doesn't care how fear feels. It only cares how reliably it behaves. Fear has become a commodity. Priced, traded, optimized. But there's a quiet paradox hidden inside all of this. The more predictable fear becomes, the more power shifts to those who understand it. The moment you recognize fear as a signal, not a command, its grip weakens. Because fear is predictable, and anything predictable can be questioned. That's why this industry exists. And that's why it's worth billions. Not because fear is uncontrollable, but because most people never realize it's being calculated in the first place.